Stop for a moment and ask yourself honestly, what if most of your prayers were not really prayers at all, but confirmations of lack? What if every time you ask, God, give me, on a subconscious level, you are sending the message, I don't have, and that is precisely what you are reinforcing? And now, a stronger question. What if the Bible, from the very beginning, was a manual for operating consciousness, not a chronicle of ancient times? Neville Goddard claimed that the characters and events are symbols of mental states you pass through every day. Is it possible that Egypt, the desert, the Promised Land, and even Jesus are not just stories, but a map of how you move from fear, lack, and chaos into peace, abundance, and love? Think about this. Why is it that sometimes you know exactly what you want, yet you still cannot deliver it? Why do you feel tension inside, as if you were fighting with yourself? And why does it happen that you receive something good and then quickly lose it, as if you were unable to hold on to it? Neville would say, this is not bad luck. This is not fate. This is the state in which you live. In this film, we will go step by step through 10 chapters, without church jargon, without moralizing, and you will see how, according to Neville, the Bible teaches one thing: who you are as consciousness and how to use I am so that life begins to respond. And if along the way resistance appears, anger, or the thought, this is heresy, we will talk about that too. Because very often resistance is a sign that you are touching something that can truly set you free. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, you will receive something concrete. How to pray effectively, how to change states, and how to stop going in circles. Welcome to Source Within Channel. Neville Goddard proposed a bold perspective. The Bible is like a theatrical play unfolding in human consciousness. The characters are not merely people from the past, but masks of states you adopt at one moment. You are brave like a king. At another, you run like a frightened child. At one moment, you feel guided. At another, abandoned. Now, the most critical point. If you treat these stories literally, you can admire them and discuss them, but you will not necessarily apply them. If you treat them symbolically, you begin to read them like instructions. Ah, this is how my psyche works. Notice how often your life feels like a repeating script. You change jobs, relationships, cities, and yet the emotional core returns. A sense of insecurity, tension, the need to prove your worth, fear of loss. This is what Neville called a state. A state is not just a mood. It is the identity from which you look at the world. A state tells you who I am, what I deserve, what is possible, what I'm afraid of. Now imagine that the Bible does not say, once it was like this, but instead says, look at how a human being moves from the consciousness of bondage to the consciousness of freedom. If you look at it this way, you stop asking, did this literally happen? And you start asking, where is this happening within me? Neville encouraged people, instead of searching for God somewhere out there, to see that the deepest level of their existence, the very capacity to be aware, is the place where creation begins. Does this sound abstract? It comes down to a simple test. Your outer life is a mirror of what you most often accept internally as truth about yourself, not what you declare. What do you feel is real? In the following chapters, we will break this down into parts. What I am is, how prayer works according to Neville, why positive thinking is not enough, and why, sometimes, your best intentions lose out to an old state. And at the end, you will receive a practical plan to implement this, not just to understand it. Neville Goddard believed that the core of the biblical message is the mystery of I am, not as a motivational slogan, but as a foundation. Identity precedes experience. Before you see anything in the world, you first, often unconsciously, choose who you are inside. And now pay attention, most people use I am like a verdict. I am unlucky. I am always late. I am someone who can't do it. I am someone who always loses. And then life obeys. Because in this philosophy, life is an echo. In everyday language, we say, they're just words. Neville would say, words are shadows. What matters is the feeling of identity behind them. You can say, I am wealthy, but if inside you feel, I don't have, I can't, it will be taken away. Then your I am sounds like I am lack. And the world will show you situations that match it because you are not asking the world to change. You are emitting a state and reality plays it out. The most radical part of this teaching is that I am is not a description of a fact, but a creative act. That is, I am peace is not a lie if you currently feel stress. It is a choice of direction in which you place your consciousness. But for it to work, you must understand the difference between affirmation and embodiment. Affirmation is repetition. Embodiment is the moment when you internally say, yes, this is me, and the body begins to recognize it. Notice this. When you genuinely feel competent, you do not need to repeat it to yourself. When you truly feel loved, you do not analyze every message. When you genuinely think about abundance, you do not nervously count every coin. These are symptoms of a state. Neville taught that practice consists of consciously entering a state before evidence appears. This is difficult for the ego because the ego wants guarantees. And the only guarantee in this work is one thing: consistency in choosing I am. In the next chapter, we will connect this with prayer, and I will show you why, according to Neville, begging is a spiritual trap, and true prayer is something entirely different. If you grew up in a culture where prayer means asking, Neville Goddard may shock you. In his view, a prayer that sounds like, give me, often strengthens the state of I don't have. It is as if you were reminding yourself and the world of lack every day. Neville defined prayer as an inner act of acceptance. This is already mine in consciousness. Here, a subtle but crucial difference appears. Asking comes from uncertainty. Acknowledgement comes from identity. Asking says, maybe it will work. Acknowledgement says, this is my state. In practice, it looks like this. Instead of praying for love, you enter the experience of being a loved person. Instead of praying for peace, you allow peace to become your I am, even if at first it is only a small window in the middle of chaos. Neville did not tell people to ignore problems. He said, stop feeding them with identity, because if a situation becomes your name, you are fighting a shadow that you yourself are strengthening. It is a bit like a mirror. You do not fix the reflection by smiling at it. You smile within yourself, and the mirror responds. In the same way, according to this philosophy, the world responds to your state. Now, an essential element, acknowledgement, does not mean pretending. It means entering a feeling of naturalness. Neville said that an effective state begins to feel normal to you, not ecstasy, not fireworks, normality. A person in a state of abundance does not shout all day, I am rich, but has an inner consent. I will manage, I have resources, life carries me. In this chapter, I want to leave you with a practical lesson. Observe what you ask for most often. These are the areas where you feel the most lacking. And now ask yourself, how does a person behave who already is what I am asking for? This is not about acting externally, it is about the inner climate. If you ask for respect, what is your inner tone? Do you speak to yourself like someone important or like someone who must earn it? In a moment, we will move on to one of the most potent biblical metaphors in Neville's interpretation: Egypt, the desert, and the promised land as 3 stages of the psyche. Neville Goddard loved biblical imagery because it goes straight to the imagination. Egypt, in his approach, does not have to mean a place on a map. It is a state in which you live under pressure, in bondage to reactions, in automatism. You wake up and immediately feel heaviness, judge yourself, anticipate failure, feed old stories. Egypt is also addicted to external signs. How will they judge me? Will I get confirmation? Will fate be favorable? The desert is even more subtle. It is the stage where you already know you do not want the old life, but the new one has not yet become natural. It is a transitional space, and that is precisely where most people turn back, because the desert is uncomfortable. No quick evidence, no immediate results, stirred up emotions, old habits shouting, "Go back, at least this, you know." Neville would say, the desert is the moment when you learn to hold a state without confirmation. And the promised land? It is not a paradise without problems. It is a state in which your new identity becomes stable. You do not have to fight yourself every minute. You have inner coherence. You feel that what was once a dream is now your normality. And now a practical conclusion. People often suffer not because they have a bad life, but because they try to enter the promised land with the mentality of Egypt. They want abundance, but think like someone who is about to lose. They want love, but scan for threats like someone who has been wounded. They want peace, but they feed on drama because it is familiar. Neville's teaching is this: changing a state is not a one-time jump, but a relocation. And in a relocation, there are boxes, dust, and chaos. If you are in the desert, it is not a sign that it doesn't work. It is a sign that the old state is dying and the new one is being born. Your task is not to fight the desert. Your task is to persist in the choice. I am the new version of myself. In the next chapter, we will enter the figure of Jesus in Neville's view, not as a distant ideal, but as a state of consciousness with concrete qualities and consequences. In Neville's interpretation, Jesus is primarily a symbol of awakened consciousness. This may sound controversial, but let us pause emotions and look functionally. What does Christ state mean? It is a state in which a human being stops living as a victim of circumstances and begins living as a source of meaning and experience. Miracles in this view are not displays of power for an audience. A miracle is simply a situation in which life arranges itself in a way that could not have been predicted from the level of the old state. If you lived your whole life in lack and suddenly a solution appears, it looks like a miracle. If you lived your whole life afraid of closeness and suddenly experience a healthy relationship, that too is a miracle. Neville would say, this is not magic. It is the consequence of a change in I am. The Christ state has several characteristics: coherence, inner authority, and love as a base rather than a reward. A person in this state does not need to prove anything, does not need to perform, does not need to beg. He is, and from that, action flows. And now an important lesson. Many people confuse state with moral judgment. They think, if I have a bad day, that means I am a bad person. Neville taught that states are like clothes. You can change them. This is enormously liberating, because if today you are in a state of fear, it does not mean that fear is you. It means fear is being visited, and you can return to I am peace. Philosophically, this leads to the question, who are you if not your states? Neville would answer that you are the consciousness that receives them. And if you receive them, you can also receive others. Practically, if you want to enter Jesus in this sense, you do not need to change religion or argue with tradition. You need to make one move. Stop giving power outward. Stop making your peace dependent on conditions. Begin to live inwardly as if you were guided, supported, taken care of, not as naivete, but as a decision of state. In a moment, we will move to the following symbol, Mary. In Neville's view, she is a brilliant metaphor for the conception of a new reality in imagination and emotion. Neville Goddard used the metaphor of Mary to describe a process everyone knows but does not call spiritual, the incubation of an idea. Mary symbolizes a state in which you accept within yourself new life, a new version of events, before anything is visible externally. Immaculate conception in this view is not a biological discussion. It is a description of the purity of the process. You do not fertilize your imagination with old fear, old chatter, old, it won't work. If you want to give birth to something new in life, you must provide it with space without constant sabotage. This is key because most people do the opposite. For 10 minutes, they imagine a better life, and for the rest of the day, they feed the old state. It is like planting a seed and digging it up every hour to check if it is growing. Neville said, your role is to accept within yourself the image of the end, feel its naturalness, and allow life to find the way. Notice how this works in ordinary matters. If you believe someone dislikes you, you will begin to interpret everything as proof. If you think you are too weak, every stumble will become confirmation. This too is conception, just unconscious. Mary in you conceives every day. The question is, what? A practical lesson. Choose one area of life, health, finances, relationships, creativity, and ask yourself, what would my inner world be like if this were already fulfilled? This is not about euphoria. It is about quiet certainty, about peace, about relaxation in the body. And here, a philosophical reflection appears. Is your imagination an escape or a workshop? Neville claimed it is a workshop. That imagination is the place where you choose a state, and the physical world is its delayed echo. In the next chapter, we will contrast this with Moses, the state of, I lead others, but I do not enter myself. This is one of the most common dramas of personal development. According to Neville, Moses is the archetype of a person who has a vision. He knows what is possible. He understands the principles. He can inspire others. And yet, he may remain on the threshold. This is painfully current because how many people today consume knowledge, courses, books, inspiration, and still live in the desert? The Moses state is the consciousness of almost. I almost believe, I almost feel, I almost am, but underneath remains old loyalty to fear, to drama, to the role of the fighter. Neville would say, you will not enter the promised land if you continue to feed an identity that needs problems to feel meaning. This is a strong point, so that I will say it gently. Sometimes we do not enter fulfillment not because we cannot, but because fulfillment threatens our old personality. If you have been the one who struggles all your life, peace may feel foreign. If you have been the one who rescues, well-being may provoke guilt. These are invisible chains. Neville taught that a state changes when you stop negotiating with the old identity. Not "I trust a little," not "sometimes I believe," but "I choose," and "I hold." A practical lesson from Moses. If you have a goal, stop only looking at it. Start inhabiting it inwardly. If your goal is love, stop endlessly analyzing people. Start building within yourself the feeling of being loved and valuable. If the goal is abundance, stop treating money as the sole commander of your emotions. Start living inwardly as someone with resources and decision-making power. The most important question of this chapter is, do you want the goal, or do you want to become the person who is compatible with the goal? Because Neville repeated in many forms, you do not get what you desire, you get what you are. In the next chapter, we will take a look at tools, how to work with the state daily without mysticism, but with simple practices that Neville connected with biblical imagery. If this philosophy is to work, it must come down to earth. Neville Goddard offered practices that are surprisingly simple but require discipline. And importantly, they do not involve fighting thoughts, but changing direction. The first practice, inner conversations. Ask yourself, who speaks within you throughout the day? Is it the voice of accusation? The voice of a child afraid of rejection? The voice of the perfectionist? Neville would say, these conversations are like prayers because they constantly define I am. If inside you say, I messed up again, no one will choose me, this is not for me, you are stabilizing a state. The practice consists of consciously changing the dialogue to that of a fulfilled person, not artificially sweet, honest, calm, stable. The second practice, revision. This consists of returning in the evening to a situation that hurt or stressed you, and in imagination, changing its course to one that supports your new state. Why? Because your psyche often lives in the past like a program. Revision is like a software update. You stop carrying within yourself proof that the world is against you. The third practice, falling asleep in the feeling of fulfillment. Neville emphasized this because the moment of falling asleep is a borderline state. The mind becomes more receptive. This is not about visualizing fireworks. It is about one short feeling. It is already done, as if you were falling asleep. Someone who has a solution, not a problem. These three practices are like three keys. Dialogue changes the day, revision changes yesterday, and falling asleep changes tomorrow. And now a philosophical reflection. Is this deceiving yourself? Neville would answer no, because if you have unconsciously programmed yourself with fear your whole life, conscious change of the program is not deception. It is reclaiming the steering wheel. In the final chapter, we will assemble this into a 7-day action plan and close the most critical lesson of Neville, love as the base state, without which every manifestation becomes another cage. Neville Goddard, although he spoke about desires and fulfillment, returned to one core. If you do not root yourself in love, you can manifest many things and still feel emptiness inside. Because then you use the world like a bandage on a wound, and the wound calls for a change of state, not another achievement. That is why we close this with a plan. Not perfect, feasible. Day 1, catch your most frequent I am during the day, without judging. Write them down. This is a diagnosis of the state. Day 2, choose one new I am for one area. For example, I am peace, I am value, I am guided. Not 10, 1. Day 3, guard your inner conversations all day. Do not fight, redirect. Every time the old voice returns, Respond with the voice of the new identity. Day 4. Revise one situation from the past that still holds you. Change it until you feel relief. Day 5. Fall asleep in the feeling of fulfillment. One short feeling, naturalness. Day 6. Check what you do when you encounter resistance. Resistance is not an enemy. It is an old state that wants to survive. Thank it and choose a new I am. Day 7. Ask yourself, does what I choose flow from love or from fear? Love, in Neville's view, is not a romantic emotion. It is a state of recognizing yourself and the world as something you do not need to fight to deserve life. And now, the final thought. If the Bible is a map of consciousness, its purpose is not for you to be well-behaved. Its purpose is for you to be awakened, aware of who you are when you say, I am, because this sentence is like a key that opens every chapter of your life. If this material stirred something in you, even if you disagree with it, write in the comments which fragment triggered the most significant resistance or the greatest aha. And if you want more of such deep but simple breakdowns of consciousness and practice according to Neville, subscribe to Source Even and send the link to someone who is stuck in their own desert. Maybe this will be the beginning of their path to their own promised land.